Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, and I'm here today with attorney Jessup, and it's the beginning of 2021, and we want to talk about our disability insurance benefits forecast for 2021. And Stephen, welcome back. And for this, beginning of the year, and it's been a crazy 2020, which a lot of us are happy to see go, especially with COVID. It's been a highly unusual year, and I think that 2021, with the vaccine starting to come out, and people accepting the norm of how to work in COVID, whereas, in 2020 we were all adjusting and didn't know what to do. The disability companies included were in disarray. March, April, May, June, the disability companies themselves didn't know how were they going to manage all these claims, how were they going to manage existing claims, new claims. They had their own problems, and I think all of the claims examiners are working remotely for the most part anyhow. We've seen large disability insurance company offices, even Unum, we know they've shut down offices, and most of the people we talk to are working at home. So let's put out there from our experience of what we're seeing, what we've been seeing towards the end of 2020 and now in the beginning, as to what we think is going to happen in 2021, what claimants should expect with their claims. And what's the first thing that comes to mind for you as to what you think we're going to see here in 21?
I think we're going to see a larger level of denials, and not just compared to 2020, which regardless, once the insurance companies kind of streamlined what they were going to be doing, it was a busy year in denials. They just weren't, there was no like goodwill and we're going to get through this together type thing. It was, we are still evaluating, we're still looking. Yes, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt if you can't get into your doctor. Yes, we will accept telemedicine appointments without as much scrutiny, things like that, but there were still a lot of denials. 2021, I think there's going to be a lot of denials, not because 2020 was slow, but I think when we look at it as a picture, everything has changed in a lot of ways. I think there's going to be a lot more early on already this year. What we're filming this is January 13th. IME requests have been rolling in. Hey, we had your file reviewed by these medical doctors. Would you like to respond for your client type thing? So I do expect that there's going to be a stepping up in denials. And, even it was publicly announced, I think just a couple weeks ago, about the New York Life and Cigna. So they'll be taking over, and you're going to get a whole new fresh set of eyes of people looking on things. So I do expect that there's going to be a heck of a lot more scrutiny, and the insurance companies, if nothing else, people always say you can rely on death and taxes, you can rely on an insurance company, fighting a claim if they have any inroad to do it.
Yeah, so I'm already seeing, just in the beginning of the year, a lot of IME requests. And my opinion as to why we're seeing that is that now I believe these disability claims examiners, which are the people who evaluate the claims, are having more accountability for their actions. I think that the disability companies in themselves restructured over the last 9 months, and now they're having these protocols in place as to being more dialed in how they're going to review the claims. And they don't necessarily, disability companies, they would get around and have these roundtables where they'd go upstairs and talk to another doctor or talk to the claims examiner next door or talk to their supervisor who was, they'd all roundtable and talk about these claims. Now it's basically like they put some protocols in place and said, do this, this, and that on a particular claim, and especially if it's over a certain dollar amount, you need to get an exam. And so one of the things they're asking for is what they call independent medical exams. But what are those really, and why are the disability companies able to request these?
It's a compulsory medical exam. The policies will say they have a right to send you to it, and you have to go. People complain about, but at the end of the day, if you don't go, they can terminate your benefits. So they use these as ways, A, to put eyes on you. B, obviously when there's an IME request, there has to be concerns about, are they looking to deny your claim? Because more often than not, they'll just send your file out to doctors to do a review of those medical records and render opinions there. So the IME is a stronger tool. And then if you fast forward, if we extrapolate out towards potential litigation, filing a lawsuit, where generally speaking, an insurance company has to ultimately show they had a reasonable basis to deny your claim, And we have body of case law that says, well, having it reviewed by doctors is reasonable basis to not relying on those. Well, having an IME is like the gold standard. As an attorney, if you see in a denial there's IMEs done, you already know that the battle in court is going to be potentially that much harder. So it sets them up for future success in quite a bit. So the IMEs, and even with the client I spoke to the beginning of this week, we got the notice, and one of the big things I always like to do is this a doctor that has a practice? Are they practitioners? Do they actually treat patients? Or do you find them only on, the things I've done 10,000 IMEs in the past, X amount of time? Well, that's going to be problematic. So the IME is a tool that's used to look to deny claims and strengthen legal arguments, but as we've seen, it can be very much a double-edged sword and can solidify claims for the insured. So, preparation of those is always big. But this uptick in IMEs compared to even when we look at 2019, 2018, when things were quote-unquote normal, it is surprising this early on how many we're seeing.
And what are your thoughts about, in 2021, the requirements for in-person medical treatment versus telehealth? And is telehealth going to be the new trend of the way more patient appointments with the doctor are taking place?
I think yes, to an extent. I think telemedicine, if the insurance companies are working from home and doing everything remotely, why can't you see your doctor remotely? And I also think the medical profession has also seen a new way to treat patients. Now, obviously, certain conditions are going to require you have to go and you have to be examined, things like that. But I do think that there was in 2020 definitely much more an acceptance of it, and I think you will see that an acceptance of telemedicine appointments, because a lot of hospital systems, especially clients I have who rely on the VA, telemedicine is the only way they're getting appointments. So I think there will be. But at some point, I think the insurance companies are even going to start to back away from that as much. They've done a lot of things, even when it comes to appealing decisions based on you'll have extra time due to there being a national emergency due to the COVID pandemic. But the goodwill and the easing of restrictions, I think at some point will kind of fall back a bit. I think for clients who've been on claim for a while, who have well-established claims, I think telemedicine appointments will be accepted a little more because you already have a huge body of medical evidence. But a lot of the newer claims, I think that they will be met with more scrutiny. So people looking to file this year, those telemedicine appointments may be met with a heck of a lot more scrutiny than in years past.
I think also in 21, the people who are on claim now need to be concerned that there's going to be a higher level of scrutiny. And my reason for that is that I think that the claims reps that are handling the claims are going to not have a couple things. Number one, I don't think they're going to have as many claims to handle as they did in the past, because I don't think you're going to see as many filings in 21 as we did in 19 and pre-20. And the reason for that is that COVID has changed the way that work is performed in a lot of office settings. And a lot of the difficulties for people working in an office was the fact that they basically had no flexibility. If they had a sedentary job, they had to sit at their desk the whole day, and you have to be able to sit for at least 6 hours a day, arguably 8 in order to do a job, obviously take a break, go to lunch. But you can't lay down, you can't stretch every 3 minutes, you can't throw your feet up all the time. I mean, you got to maintain yourself in a professional work environment. Now a lot of these people have had the opportunity to work at home, and most claimants don't want to file. Because when you file for long-term disability, you're giving up at least 40% of your income, and that's assuming that you're proportionately insured, meaning that you have enough disability coverage. So most people don't want to file for disability insurance because you're going to make a lot less money than you're making now. So a lot of people have been able to accommodate themselves and basically work from home, because now they feel like if they need to sleep for an hour, nobody may know. If they want to throw their feet up, they can do that. If they want to run around in circles the whole time, if they want to take, 5 breaks an hour, they can do that. As long as they're getting their work done, the employers are likely going to be satisfied and not know what they're doing, and therefore the person can keep their job. Now, obviously, they're still going to have to perform. They're going to have employee reviews, and we'll see the scrutiny start to come down on these people working at home. But in 2021, people who are on claim are going to get more scrutiny because the claims examiners are going to have more time to review claims. So you really need to be aware of that. So what do the people do that are on claim already? One of the things you mentioned was telehealth at a minimum. They need to be proactive in their medical treatment and not necessarily just sitting at home saying, or not going to doctor because saying it's COVID, I can't get to the doctor. So that might mean once a month, once every 2 months, calling your doctor, checking in, telling them how you're feeling, and getting that documented. Because like we always say, the claim's only as good as it is on paper. And if it's not in the medical records, then the disability carriers, what they're doing now is they're saying, look, you haven't seen your doctor in 8 months, let's have a doctor look at you. And there's the IME. And if you're on claim, you don't want that IME. So the message is continue to be proactive. Reach out to the doctor, either go to the doctor or call your doctors and get those appointments and do your follow-ups. What do you see happening? I mean, it's such an interesting dynamic. Vaccines are coming out. COVID is worse than it's ever been right now, yet a lot of people all over, regardless of your political views, are acting in many ways like as if COVID doesn't exist, and they're going about their business, going out places and doing things. Do you think we're going to see a ramp up in video surveillance now?
Finally, I think, yeah. I think all of last year we could safely say do not expect too much that they will be doing it, especially in states and locations with more severe lockdowns. I think this year, I think it'll be another weapon, another tool to be used without a doubt, 100%. I think even more so in the cases like you discussed, if people do filings and they've been working from home and they make a filing now, I think that's something that could be used more. So I would expect, I mean, even driving into work, it's not quite the South Florida traffic I'm used to, but it's noticeably, much, increased. I came to the office all of 2020, and it was like driving every day on a Sunday morning. It was wonderful. But there are a lot of people out and about. So yeah, I think video surveillance will be, put back in the quiver of arrows for the insurance company to use to try to deny a claim.
And then the last area about, you mentioned more denials, but insurance in 2020, the disability insurance companies clearly lost a lot of revenue because they need numbers, they need bodies, they need employees to write these group policies. And a lot of employers were downsizing in 2020 or cutting expenses because businesses were hit hard in 2020, so a lot of coverage was dropped. And these disability insurance companies are in business to make money, and now they have less revenue coming in, yet picked up, they still have the liability. So they're going to put higher scrutiny because they can't afford to pay out as many claims. But the other thing that you were mentioning as well is that we saw consolidation amongst many, and we've seen a lot of consolidation in the last couple of years, and now we're starting to see where, for example, New York Life's going to take over for Cigna claims, and Liberty Mutual and Lincoln Financial, a lot of mergers, but different sets of eyes, and why is that going to change the game for people who are on claim now that there's new companies that are involved in managing?
Every insurance company does things differently than the next. So the way Liberty used to review claims was different than Lincoln did, but now you're starting to see finally like a mixture of the review process of the two. And it's one of those things that, where are the numbers to prove it? But in my opinion too, because I've just seen it with people contacting me, they're like, oh, Hartford denied my case, Hartford denied my case. Turns out it was an old Aetna policy. So it's almost like the companies that have acquired are trying to move out those older books of business if they have the ability to, or they finally give it a really good look over that hadn't before. Now Hartford's reviewing an Aetna case the way Hartford reviews a Hartford case, not the way Aetna did. So you are seeing that, and they're trying to figure out where they can. Yes, they spent a lot of money to acquire this, and there's a lot of money to be made, but at the end of the day, it's a numbers game for them. And when you're working with an area of the law that's very favorable to you as the insurance industry, you will look to cut cases where you can, without a doubt.
Right, and I would say the consolidation of the insurance companies and the takeovers is equivalent to a change in governmental parties. The way things are administered, the protocols, the structures is different, and we know the protocols and the methodologies of each and every disability company.
And it was also one of those things when there were more companies, there's more competition in the marketplace to try to get the business of the employers. Now with less companies, there's less options to go to, so the more you corner a portion of the market, you can enforce the will of the way you do business more, because you don't have to worry about maybe this company that's buying your product leaving you for another insurance carrier.
Right. Well, thank you for your time, and hope 2021 works out to be a significantly better year than it was in 2020. If you have any issues whatsoever with your long-term disability claim, whether you're applying for benefits, you're on claim, or you've been denied, feel free to contact Stephen or myself or any of our long-term disability insurance attorneys. We represent claimants all over the country, so no matter where you live, we're available and ready to help you. We encourage you to spend a little bit of time on our website, take a look at information specifically about your company. You can search by your medical condition or your occupation. We want you to become educated about this whole disability insurance process, and while you may already know a lot about it, we want you to have the most current information so you can stay on top of everything that's going on. As you can see, when there's consolidations amongst the companies, we start to see different trends in the behaviors of the different companies, and we always share that information. We always put out these YouTube videos on a weekly basis, and you can click below to subscribe to our video, which we are thankful for you doing that. Should you need us in the future, we look forward to helping you.